Welcome to Conversations in Social Care, a unique and refreshing podcast for the social care sector, brought to you from Care Talk. Well, good morning to everyone. It's great to have you with us again for a Conversations in Social Care podcast. And we're delighted to have, I would say, sort of royalty in social care today. This fella is so well thought of, and I could see that when he won the Social Care Top 30. He was actually voted #1, which was absolutely superb. So first of all, Clenton, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Steve. And firstly, I would say I'm honoured and humbled. However, I couldn't have won this award without the massive support of Think Local, that personal partnership, TLAP for short, and the TLAP team and the National Co-Production Advisory Group, and many other people, organisations, and I better make sure to mention my family and friends. My aim is to use the award to raise the profile of people who draw on care and support and influence the social care reform on the kind of solid footing that only real lived experience can provide, and we so desperately need. And I read a book by Daniel Presley. Don't try to be the spotlight, try to become the spotlight. And I'm trying to become the spotlight so people with lived experience and people who draw on care and support can be heard. But once again, I have a massive thanks to all the people who voted for me.
And of course, the young man you're just hearing from there is Clenton Farquharson MBE. We've got to get that in, Clenton MBE. Could you tell us why you were given that, Clenton? That must have been a lovely honour.
It was a lovely honour. I got given it in 2014 for the work with people with disabilities in the West Midlands. That's what I got the award, and it was a real honour to get it from the Queen herself. Not many people now are getting it from the Queen, so it was a lovely day. Just wish my dad was around to see me get it, but my dad had cancer and he's died now.
Ah, sorry to hear that, Clenton. But again, no. A very, very proud moment for you. And I have to say, you were such a popular winner at the Social Care Top 30. It's funny because obviously it was a who's who of social care, wasn't it? Some of the real big hitters there. And when you were voted #1, everybody was genuinely pleased for you. Quite often when I host award ceremonies, the runners up or the other 6 in the top 7 kind of just sort of grit their teeth and smile through gritted teeth when someone wins. I think everybody was genuinely over the moon for you.
Yeah, that's what I felt, and I was just lost for words. And I really am honoured just to be in the company of, like you say, the big hitters.
And it was lovely as well, Clenton, because for those who obviously weren't there on the evening, we had Baroness Tanny Gray-Thompson, who was a lovely lady.
She's a brilliant lady, and over the times I've got to know Tanya Gray, and she's just your everyday person, you know, with massive, great leadership qualities.
Do you know what the one thing probably people wouldn't know about what the kind of lady Tanny is? And I think this sums her up, Clenton. I know when they were organising sort of booking her for the event and stuff, and her agent was on the call at the same time, and it says, and of course, Tanny will be requiring a car into London. And Tanny went, no, I won't. I'll get the underground.
And that's Tanny. She's just an ordinary person who, for me, just lives extraordinary life.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about. Now, of course, leadership comes in all forms, Clenton, and doesn't always have to be from the top down. What defines good leadership for you?
Good leadership for me brings to mind 4 elements, and the first element for me would be honesty. 2 would be courage. 3 would be humility, And 4, the biggest one for me is hope. And I'll try and explain why those are essential, I believe. And I believe these can unify us as community and society. And those are virtues must be at the forefront of our thoughts through hardship and times of comfort, and the need to become embedded in our character. And I believe hope can become what we are, not what we have. And honesty and courage are so often absent in leadership on both sides of that spectrum, which can lead to social issues. In a healthy culture, individuals must talk up in favour of the common good, not be fearful that talking about things make them and they can be expressed of the ideas we sometimes alienate from our communities. And I believe we all love to challenge the other person and our rivals and tell them the truth and preach, but we're less willing to be open of ourselves to criticism and challenge and our own views, which have massive implications, I believe, in leadership, being too emotional or involved with our convictions, and they can block our rational humility and prevent genuine listening to others' perspectives. And we need honesty and courage to speak the truth, including the painful truth, which can unsettle not only our foes, but also our friends and ourselves. So for me, I would reframe the question about what good leadership looks like. The question should be, what does it mean to be human? And for me, those are 8 crucial points which a good human should be. And that's courage, engage in dialogue, be original, ignore distraction around us, and connect with the past, because you have to understand history shapes us, and go beyond the discomfort and understand how love and justice can show up in compassion. And that's what good leadership is, what I see in being human. And, you know, we talked about Tanny, Tanny Thompson-Gray. She embeds all of those issues for me.
Without a doubt. Now, you said something, Clinton, which I think struck a chord with many people. Your quote was that leaders seldom hear from people whose experiences fall outside their own worldview. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think for me, this speaks to what I mentioned earlier. You have to go beyond your own discomfort. It's how you aid your own understanding of complex issues and how we address them. For example, if we look at social care reform and what's the dialogue in that space, it can be seen as it's all about money. And I will say on the record that I don't disagree with social care needs more money, but it should be about more money better spent. So how do we create the space to listen and to be heard, to influence decisions affecting our daily lives and the lives of others who draw on care and support? So how do leaders do that? They need to look at what people feel about society and from all different social groups that might be affected with those issues. And it's about how leaders understand problems and solutions. This needs to hear from diverse voices to aid understanding. And it's the degree to which leaders feel motivated and willing to engage with social problems of our day.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Now, Clenton, you're a passionate and vocal campaigner for the voice of people who use social care services to be heard. How's your personal journey led you to where you are today?
That's quite a complex journey, but my personal journey started in Balsall Heath, which is one of the most deprived areas in Birmingham. And my parents came to the UK as part of Windrush, and I'm one of 7 siblings. And I became aware of what it meant to be a campaigner from my mum and dad, which influenced how I approached my own activism. And my uncle would tour the UK with a sound system, which with DJs and MCs playing reggae music, ska, and my dad used to join and carry the equipment in the van, and this is where they grew up in Jamaica, and they met a person called Rodney Rothwell Kentish, and he was part of one of the 9 who went on trial for protesting against racist police harassment.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
And my dad and uncle took part in the demonstrations in the famous Mangrove 9 protest in the 70s, which was featured in the Steve McQueen series Small Acts.
That's right, I watched that. Excellent.
And my activism started a decade later to the backdrop of the music of Still Pulse. I vividly remember the album cover, Handsworth Revolution, and 1 in 10 by UB40, which talked about the unemployment benefit. And on my 16th birthday, frustrated with the prospects of my future, and I tired of being stopped and searched at that time. So I took part in the Birmingham riots. Not one of my proudest moments, but I was angry with the injustice, and I felt like I was walking on a tightrope.
You felt it was the only voice you had at the time?
Yeah, definitely. And my mum was worried I'd either be arrested or I'd die. And she told me there is a better way of communicating, but like most youngsters, I thought I knew better. And I now realise my mum is a very wise woman. And I'm so proud of how my mum, my dad, and my family were able to forgive, but not forget. And it's taught me how to deal with injustice and people who think differently. And it was, and they helped me introduce me to the different perspectives of Malcolm X and his fight for women's rights and interracial marriage, and the thought that he had thoughts that it was possible for all races to be able to come together to fight against injustice and oppression. And the other moments were years later when I needed help from others, and this was from my local hospital in Birmingham, and it was Heartlands Hospital, which saved my life, because I intervened to try and stop a young woman from being raped, and I got stabbed 26 times and it severed my main artery, main nerve. But it was those dedicated people in the hospital saved my life. And then there was another moment was when social worker helped me through my darkest days, and it helped me, and they helped me to change my life and inspired me to widen my campaigning ideas of including key things like social justice, personalisation, and equality and co-production. And this has shaped was shaped by the support from my family, friends, and I call social care family. And it's also challenged to call out the work for change, and we can each choose how to live our lives, and no one must accept it passively. We all have agency, and I believe that strongly, and can use it to make change. But for me, equality and equity are not always straightforward, and health and social care need to understand how intersectionality, and that's where people can have multiple disadvantages through the lens of race, ethnicity, gender, disability, age, poverty, and sexual orientation, and other factors I've mentioned. But it means people who draw on care and support can be left behind. And it's why I do what I do, if that makes sense, Steve.
Of course. Wow, Clenton, you really have had some journey. That's an incredible story.
Yeah, it just gives me a different perspective, you know, to see through life and try to do my best to understand where other people's perspectives are.
Yeah, and what you touched on there did make me smile, because I was always told something years ago, and I thought it was great. It said, when I was 21, my mum and dad knew nothing. When I got to 30, I couldn't believe what they'd learned in 9 years. And it's so true, isn't it? It is, yeah, so true.
Definitely.
We all think we know everything about the world at that time, and sadly exactly. It isn't true. But now, of course, Clint, you are best known for your role as chair of Think Local, Act Personal. Tell us a bit about this for people who don't know about it.
Okay. For those who don't already know, TLAP, it's a partnership organisation which promotes personalisation, working with people who draw on care and support, and family carers through our national co-production advisory group. I believe there's different understandings of personalisation, but to me, it boils down to services which fit around people, not the other way around.
Yeah, it is a great thing. I was reading about it myself. It's absolutely superb. Now, of course, one of the big things, one of the big issues at the moment is care worker shortages. They're obviously at an all-time high, obviously because of COVID and Brexit. I know the Department of Health and Social Care recently launched a national recruitment campaign. How effective do you think this will be?
I find this a difficult question, but to start, I'd like to think about the language we use to describe care workers, and it's difficult, and I'll do my best to aid the understanding on this. Talking about care work a lot, people think of healthcare, or people assume the primary care work to be in institutions, you know, and hospitals, care homes, and nursing homes. And people see care work outside of these settings. For example, I use a personal assistant as a disabled people, and people see PAs as less skilled and less important. But people also see care as a personality trait rather than a skill to be learned or developed, or that it's just about emotional support. We need to recognise that this context matters for when we talk about quality, and quality depends on the skills, personality of the individual. So yes, better pay and conditions will improve it, but it's more nuanced than that. And the pandemic has changed our language. Words used around care to be based on frontline support, and the war and pandemic. If you just think about those metaphors, I believe are on unhelpful, how we see each other and the views we have of the world. What does it make people who draw on care feel like we can become collateral damage if we view through those metaphors and the words that we use create the image of the world we see? They're very emotive. So for me, COVID has opened a space for us to reevaluate the language of care work, and it's not. I don't believe it's a done deal or a close case, but we have an opportunity for a better conversation and thinking on that. So we have to recognise a recognition that care is vital, but it's still unevenly valued in different settings, and to carry on after the pandemic, we need to recognise that there is a deeper context and structure which affects the quality of care that we receive. And we cannot fall back that care qualities an individual characteristic, but it needs to be looked at through a system change. And the government tends to be focused on older people rather than younger people and people of working age. What can be done to readdress the imbalance when we view about care work? And we need to tell a fuller story. At the moment, how we talk about care, the images we use, and television programs like, if you think about Ed Ball, the TV program, all that referred to was care homes, care home settings, residential care, and older people. And like I said, there are lots of younger people who draw on care and support, but we don't talk about working age people or mental health or learning disabilities. And these are all the diversity of people and carers who draw on care and support. So for me, excuse me, social care is about all of us. So the stories we tell should be a better story. And the social care vision can help address the imbalance of the systems and change the conversation from property and finance to everyone can have a meaningful life. That's what I think we need to head for.
Definitely. So how can we join up services, Clinton, so that people tend to have a seamless experience rather than a complicated service-driven one?
I mentioned before about services fitting the life of the person rather than the person needing to fit the lives around a service. And I think this is key. I think this is key.
Of course, co-production seems to be one of the words of the moment, but there's still a gap, obviously, between the rhetoric and the reality. How do you think we can address this?
When we talk about co-production, we talk about the theoretical processes, but what it means to me, co-production, is we work together and we learn together. And we need to understand this as a foundation and principles to address how equality, equity, and accessibility plays out in our lives if we're going to use co-production. And we need to bring in the most diverse voices into decision-making to address how the lack of power in relationships and information and advice. So co-production is the solution to that, I believe. And we need to work with people who draw on care and support so that services deliver that meaningful life that I talked about earlier.
Yeah, of course. It's obviously been a very, very tough 18 months for everyone, Clinton. Thankfully, hopefully, we seem to be getting through the other side, fingers crossed. Personally, for you, what were the highs and lows during COVID?
That's a really good question. My highs during COVID were reconnecting and being grateful for everything in my life and my family. And I found joy in the mundane things. For example, I started growing plants and flowers and strawberries. The little things brought joy to me. But I also like to see the compassion and people caring about each other. The lows were losing family to COVID, and both my mother and I were hospitalised with COVID, and it was a huge stress and anxiety to Joanne, my wife, and our daughter, and family and friends. It took its toll, but I'm working to see a brighter future as an individual and for my family and a society. And I think we all care about each other more.
Yes, I do agree with that, Clinton. I do agree with that. So, anyway, how did the strawberries turn out?
Beautiful. Yeah, you know, I have to. And because my dad used to have a loft, not a loft. He used to have.
I'm trying to think of the name as well. I know what you mean. It's the thing at the garden. I can't remember the name of it either. Go on, it'll come to us. It'll come to us.
We used to, as kids, always asked us to go and help him, dig and plant stuff. And we always used to say, "Well, you can buy that in a shop, Dad. Why you growing it?" And if he could see me now growing things, he'd be laughing and turning in his grave, laughing, saying, "I told you, you'd be growing your own stuff."
It's the joy of it, seeing growing, and then actually eating it must be lovely.
Yeah. They were the best strawberries I've ever tasted.
Do you know what, Clinton? We're going to be sitting about at lunchtime today going, that's what it's called, because I couldn't remember the name of it either, where you have your own little patch of earth where you grow all your
strawberries.
Yeah. And when you're at the end of the year now, of course, what plans do you have for Christmas?
I think this Christmas will be about a quiet family time and to recharge our batteries. And we'll be remembering those we lost and rejoicing the times we had with them. So we're going to try and turn it into a celebration. And also we'll be holding each other closer, I believe, over Christmas and beyond, because we've had 18 months of not seeing each other. And as my mum says, we'll be counting our blessings. And I never thought I would be repeating things like that that my mum used to say, but that's what we'll be doing.
Excellent. And finally, Clinton, what do you think the New Year's resolution should be for social care? I know that you're very, very sort of passionate about it.
I think that's a great question. A metaphor I often used that we need to fix social care. I'd like to remind people that we cannot fix a system. We can't lift up the bonnet and replace the parts. As someone from Birmingham, I'd say we need a new car, but I'd be worried that I would damage my eco credentials, but said needed a new car and it wasn't built by green. Yeah. So what we need is a major rewire of social care. And how do we do that? Well, I believe that's the social care future vision is something we can all organise around to grow social care more. And they are it's a growing movement. And the vision says we all want to live in a place we call home, with people and things that we love, in communities where we look out for one another, doing the things that matter to us. And if we or someone we care about has a disability or health condition, then we might need support to do that. So that is the role of social care for me. When we organise social care well, it enables to weave the web of relationships and community support to draw on so that we can live a meaningful life. So we can already do this. There are great examples of facilitators who bring together family, friends, neighbourhoods of people together to support people to do what matters most to them. And for me, I want a bigger understanding about the role of PAs who can offer practical support to lead a life our own way. And there are organisations who provide the opportunity to use our skills, talents to promote well-being and provide community benefits. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Think Local, Act Personal. We believe this can and should happen. It needs the government to make it a priority for social care, invest in it more, for councils to work with people and organisations to bring it to life. And we need social care to be organised and funded differently. And at TLAP, we've got a Making It Real statements that show what good looks like, and a more equal and empowering relationship with people is needed.
Excellent. Now, I was going to say, I'm now off to my allotment.
That's it.
You know, that would have drove me crazy all day. It's just come to me there.
Brilliant. That's
Clenton, I have to say, you're an inspirational man. You've done so well, and you're a great voice for social care. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, as it always is, seeing you in person. Thank you so much for your time. It's much appreciated.
No, thank you for your time. And I really enjoyed the day. But thank you for your time to get some of my thoughts out.
No problem at all. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Clenton. Have a lovely Christmas.
And the same to you, Steve.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Our next guest will be announced very soon, so keep an eye on our social media. A reminder that the link to nominate for the Social Care Top 30 is in the podcast description.